Good morning. Welcome to Of Darkness and Light. My name is Daphne Garrido. I write as Ophelia Everfall. If you're listening, I invite you to join me at daphnegarrido.com. I am a disabled schizophrenic woman who is holding their schizophrenia in a different way than people do. And it is an exploration. I am somebody who is in need of help, so it's very sad. But it will get less sad when I get help, and I'm looking for the help I need. And I'm just somebody with schizophrenic executive dysfunction that prevents me from doing forms, and I'm somebody who's in debt, and somebody who's had nobody to look after them or get them started on disability or work through how to get them set up through their executive dysfunction. And so I always talk about that a little bit. But what I want to talk about right now is the great cognitive dissonance destroyer of trans women. People feel really sad and weird and tingly inside when they see a trans woman like me who's looking really pretty, but they can tell is really sad. And they can tell is really sweet, but their own triggers of superficial judgment create patterns of discordance with that sweetness and that perceived womanhood. And it creates a seen, witnessed, understood tragedy of feeling. And when people come to care for these trans women as people, which I'm going to tell you is a part of the cognitive dissonance, most people don't. Most people see trans women as things. The disappointment I saw in people's eyes when I came out as a trans woman, and I was still looking at them as Garrett, was, oh no, they're going to stop being a person. They're going to be one of those things. And that's real. And the cognitive dissonance is the same there as when people create alternate universes because they can't admit that they're just racist when they put Sinbad on top of Shaq in a really embarrassing way. And people are living in an alternate universe when it comes to trans women. They feel terrible. It feels terrible. They project the blame at the trans woman and they punch down and they push away. That's what genocide is. Trans women get pushed away, turned away for not being pretty enough, for being too pretty, for being too sexualized, for being too outspoken, for teasing. Teasing's the biggest trigger because a trans woman who teases is playing into the perception that it's not even a perception. They're triggering denial responses in people who can't acknowledge that they're taking the harshness of their teasing like they would a man. And so instead of taking it like they would a man, where they'd be like, I'm gonna harden up, and be like, fuck you back, dude. They don't say anything, or it just hurts their feelings really bad because they recognize that it's a woman of spirit, and seeing the reflection that they don't want to acknowledge of their own sexism, which expects innate softness from women, and not speaking from their chest is a trouble to be acknowledged. So trans misogyny's root in culture is a huge cognitive dissonance. It's not seen as the very specific entity of civilizational horror and propagation of our hearts into to suppression of like masochistic self-harm that it is. We are some of the most vulnerable people by nature of our spirit and personality and the form we live in and the world that surrounds us, of such horrific balances of misogyny and misandry that all come down on the trans woman. And people can't acknowledge how sad that is, so they make it worse. And people are doing this for all types of things. When I look at the internet, I see a retarded culture of people who are simultaneously feeling like a victim and roasting themselves for feeling like a victim and pushing away people who made them feel uncool while putting out projections of feeling uncool and being a victim of the whole process, but loving it. And then seeing somebody like me who's being really honest and sad and needs help and angry because nobody's hearing her and is shouting like a woman in distress who believes if they get really loud and they get really crazy, somebody's gonna be like, oh my God, they need help. Let me go take care of that girl. This is really embarrassing to us all that we're letting this happen. But no, I'm blocked behind the cognitive dissonance of trans women who can't be seen because it amplifies my sadness beyond what other people can even understand. They feel it and they don't like it and they push it away, they look away, they demonize, they laugh, and it's okay. That's what I'm saying. I talk about my emotions being burnt out. I can look at this stuff. I can admit that this is what I face. I feel this and I understand it is true and I forgive people because I have to. My feelings have burnt out. And so when I express my truth, it's too complicated. When I speak from inside my schizophrenia and try and explain how I've put it together in a unique way, I don't even know. I've never gotten one person to be like, hey, it seems like you're doing something cool with your schizophrenia that's a little different. Seems like you really are kind of healing it. There's just like a denial block there. I don't know what it is. Even if people acknowledge it, they're like, I don't know. Are you denying science? It's weird. Trust the scientists got in deep, dude. It is deeply implanted. mRNA vaccines have a byproduct of, they have lipids, which come from petroleum. I think that's a problem. I think putting anything that is made of, by petroleum into our bodies is a terrible thing to do. I think scientists who trust the data that is incomplete about what that might do to our bodies over time and allow business to tell people to continue boosting and boosting and boosting without any kind of data on what that does when you put lots of little bits of oil byproduct in your body are not people to be trusted. Did we not watch any documentaries about just like poor white Americans getting exploited by pharmaceutical companies into like killing themselves with fentanyl? Like this is the companies. These are the companies, and have we not read about how they're infiltrating medical science and creating propaganda? Are we not aware of how the Donald Trump administration literally erased public knowledge and research about trans women all over the internet, just like Hitler did from their like gender institutes? It's like we keep undoing this knowledge that trans women are a genetic truth. And anyways, I'm all balled up because I'm a schizophrenic person, and I can't help but be a representation of the world I live in honesty. And I'm finding a deeper level of honesty, which is that I am going to respect myself the most by not being mean to anyone. Because I've learned finally to fight the trigger that comes downstream from my executive dysfunction block about not being able to do the things I need to get help and not getting help, and then screaming at everyone else because it's not helping. And I've learned that through conditioning. And so now I have a block on screaming, finally, because it's not worked. And so I'm going to use that. And the little staircase I found down from my staircase, my Penrose staircase, has an out, I believe. Not into being able to do forms or help myself or take care of myself or plan meals or go back to work. I need creative space. I need rest. I need a restful space from the high trauma I've lived through. And pills and then going back to work is not rest. And I will not accept that as a solution. And I shouldn't have to go into a home. And I can create art that is of capitalistic value, that anyone with a kind heart who can talk to me softly, with intelligence, can help me put together and start drafting query letters into the forums, dude. I did a bunch of query letters to people about the Foundry, having gone through the first few chapters and really edited them together in a manuscript in a way that was like really, really finished as best I could. And I only could submit to publishers or publishing, like, what do you call it, literary agents who connect through publishers, which is a strange system of intermediary that just kind of like takes money book by book, who doesn't represent the author, but represents the selling of one book to a publisher. And it's been weird. So I reached out to like creative agencies as well, because I do so much, and I'm like, can somebody see my value? I did all these meditations. I can do all my audiobooks. I have a living canonical breadth of science fiction glory, and that will be speculative fiction because it's going to include lots of fantasy as well. And I just need and I have lots to teach about schizophrenia and disability and transness, and but that's the thing is I'm ugly, right? I'm ugly in my face, but I'm the prettiest. If you know my spirit, if you appreciate authenticity. And so maybe we can readjust who's allowed space in the algorithms to people that aren't just billboards. That's kind of my vibe. Is maybe we can start being more honest. Maybe we can break down the walls of cognitive dissonance. Maybe when we feel bad about a trans woman being really sad, we cannot blame that on them and then wonder, maybe there is something to those suicide statistics. Maybe it's the estrogen pills. That's what I wonder too. Do people look at my disability and they're like, yeah, you took all those estrogen pills, they messed you up. This is the biggest pile of trash ever, dude. They've made me feel better and better and better, and it's just the cancer I've become as a trans woman who's living a sad life, and especially as somebody who lives of authenticity and teaches from it. That's what I always did. When I first fell into my giant pit of depression after becoming trans and going through becoming like openly trans and going through my transition and like finding that first kind of like, oh, I have a friendship as a woman. I might find queer community. I might find community space where I'm honored as a person that I am. I might find new people who treat me like I want. And that relationship ended cruelly and sent me into a depression, and I was alone. I sat down, I made a meditation called Trust the Flow of Life. That was about flowing with your life's river. That was about riding the currents of the water and trusting that it's going to take you where you need to go. I am a person that's doing that, and I am a woman who is in a male body, and the river is being blocked by people who have anchored themselves to shore and are trying to block other people from going down the river or casting barbs at the people that are going down the river. And the people going down the river are getting injured by all of the weaponry that's coming their way, all of the attacks, all of the misunderstanding, the fact that they have no one going down the river beside them. And then the people are pointing at them and they're like, this person needs to go away, they're sick, they're disabled. Or, hey, this trans girl seems sad and gross, let me call her ugly. Let me call her a mean name. I love people trying to be mean to me on social media. I am the best troll fighter in the history of the world. I could not give a shit, dude. I could not give a shit. People say this stuff, like sometimes somebody gets something where I'm like, wow, that's so mean. It actually like hurts my feelings a little bit. Like, so what I do with that is I come back like with a poem about putting your hand in the sink and the blades turning on. So they have to like fight thinking about that the rest of their life. If I might have cursed them with a little poem that rhymes about their hand getting chewed up by blades. Because I'm like, you got me, bitch, watch this. But that's the thing is like, people come at me with the worst things. I forget, like, I don't even know, but like people call me like, you know, like, I think of something better. I was like, man, donkey. But nobody's ever called me that. I would laugh so hard. I'd be like, damn, dude, that's fucked up. But like, I just gave away keys to the kingdom, dude. That's my Vicky Darkblood. Call me a man donkey. And I'll just be like, why did you call me that? That's what a proper Vicky Darkblood does for people who are in the know. That's my canonical mega witch character. And when I write from Vicky Darkblood and I just let into my subconscious space and let dialogue come out from her, it's the sickest burns ever, and they come out very specifically tuned to whoever they're at, whoever they're going for, to completely immobilize into like confusion, laughter, disgust, and then hurt, and you're like, what? It doesn't even it kind of like half makes sense, but then you think about it and you're like, that's really mean, dude. But if somebody called me a man donkey, that's what I'd be like. I'd be like looping in how it's kind of funny, and I'd be like, oh, that one, I don't want to be a donkey. Anyways. But yeah, no, if somebody did that, I'd just be like, all right, Vicky's here. What are we doing, dude? How am I going to fuck the rest of your life up the best I can? Anyways, I do need help, and let's do better for trans ladies. We're sad, and so let's not be mean on top of that, right? Let's be nice.